The metal doors slid open with a soft hiss. Taemin Park walked into the classroom and felt every pair of eyes turn toward him. He kept his face blank and moved to his usual seat in the back corner. The whispers started immediately. "That's the human," someone muttered. "Can't believe they let his kind in here." Taemin pulled out his datapad and ignored them. He had heard it all before. Every day for the past 3 months at the Galactic Naval Academy had been the same. The other cadets looked at him like he was a mistake that somehow slipped through the admission process. The academy floated in orbit above the Coalition capital world. Through the massive windows, Taemin could see the planet's blue oceans and white clouds. It looked almost like Earth. Almost. But Earth was far away and he was here, surrounded by aliens who thought humans didn't belong among the stars. Commander Velthar entered the room. His insect-like body clicked as he moved to the front of the class. The Krillion's compound eyes swept across the students. "Today we discuss tactical combat scenarios," he said, his voice sharp and precise. "You will be officers. You must think like warriors, not children." The commander displayed a hologram above his desk. It showed 2 fleets in space, one smaller than the other. Blue Fleet is outnumbered 3-1. Red Fleet has better weapons. What does Blue Fleet do? Several cadets raised their hands. Hyunwoo Kim spoke first. The Valorian's blue skin seemed to glow as he smiled confidently. "Blue Fleet should retreat. Fighting is pointless when you're outnumbered." "Logical," Velthar said. "Anyone else?" Ji-Won Choi raised her scaled hand. The reptilian Drenthian's tail swished behind her chair. "Blue Fleet could request negotiation. Avoid the battle entirely. Also logical." Velthar's eyes moved to Taemin. "Cadet Park, you've been quiet. What would you do?" Taemin looked at the hologram. He studied it for a moment. Blue Fleet could use a flanking maneuver. Send 2 ships wide while the main force engages directly. The flanking ships hit Red Fleet's supply line. Forces them to split their attention. Hyunwoo laughed. It wasn't a kind sound. "The human wants to fight a battle we can't win." Typical groundling thinking. Other cadets joined in the laughter. Taemin's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. "Humans barely left their planet before we found them," Hyunwoo continued. "They know nothing about void combat. Nothing about real warfare. They're soft, weak, they've never been tested." Commander Velthar held up one clawed hand. "That's enough, Cadet Kim." But his tone was mild. He didn't really disagree. The commander turned back to the hologram and ignored Taemin's suggestion completely. The lesson continued. Taemin stared at his desk and listened. He took notes. He said nothing else. Around him, the other cadets discussed tactics and strategies. They were all so confident, so sure that they knew what war looked like. Taemin reached up without thinking and touched his right forearm through his uniform sleeve. The fabric covered the ink and scars beneath. He dropped his hand quickly and went back to his notes. When class ended, Taemin gathered his things and stood. Hyunwoo blocked his path. The Valorian was taller than him, and his telepathic abilities made his eyes seem to glow faintly. "You should quit, human," Hyunwoo said quietly. "This academy is for real warriors, not for children playing soldier." Taemin met his eyes. "Move. Or what? You'll fight me? Prove how tough humans are?" Hyunwoo smiled. "You're nothing. Your whole species is nothing. You have no proof of worth, no battle honors, no history of victory, just empty words." Taemin's hands clenched at his sides. For a moment, something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Then it was gone. His face went blank again. He stepped around Hyunwoo without another word. More laughter followed him out of the classroom. He heard someone say, "The human runs away." Like they always do. Taemin walked down the corridor alone. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Other cadets moved past him in groups, talking and laughing. None of them spoke to him. He was used to it. Taemin. "Wait," he turned. Bora Han jogged toward him. She was one of only 2 other humans at the academy. Her face was flushed with anger. "Why do you let them talk to you like that?" she demanded. "You should report Hyunwoo to the instructors. Or at least defend yourself." "It doesn't matter," Taemin said. "It does matter. They think we're weak. They think humans don't deserve to be here." Taemin looked at her. Bora was young, only 19. She had come to the academy straight from Earth's best schools. She was brilliant with technology and ship systems, but she didn't understand some things yet. "Words don't matter," he said quietly. "Actions do. Let them talk. When it counts, I'll show them what I am." "When will that be?" "When it needs to be." He started walking again. Go to your next class, Bo-Ra, don't worry about me. She watched him go, frustration clear on her face. But she didn't follow. Taemin made his way to the observation deck. It was usually empty during class hours. He needed the quiet. The deck had a massive window that looked out into space. Stars scattered across the darkness like diamonds on black cloth. He stood there and stared out at nothing. His right hand moved to his left forearm again, rubbing the covered skin through his uniform. It was an old habit. One he couldn't break. 7 years. It had been 7 years since Ganymede. 7 years since he watched his world burn. 7 years since he learned what war really meant. These cadets didn't know. They played at war in simulations. They read about tactics in books. They talked about honor and glory like it meant something. They had never held a dying friend. Never smelled burning metal and flesh. Never made choices where every option ended in death. Taemin closed his eyes and breathed slowly. In, out, in, out. It was a technique his father taught him. Security Chief James Park always said that a calm mind was a warrior's greatest weapon. His father was dead now. So was his mother. So were 39 others. All of them died so that strangers could live. Taemin opened his eyes. He looked at his reflection in the window. A young man with dark hair and darker eyes stared back. He looked ordinary, normal, nothing special, that was fine. He didn't need to look special. He just needed to be ready when the time came. Because the time always came. War didn't care about words or insults. War cared about who was still standing when the smoke cleared. He rolled up his right sleeve just enough to see the edge of black ink on his forearm. Names, dates, coordinates, scars. Beneath the tattoo from burns that never fully healed. I'm still here, he whispered to the names. I'm still trying. He pulled the sleeve down and turned away from the window. His next class started in 20 minutes. Advanced Weapon Systems with Professor Krell. Another class where the other cadets would whisper and laugh. It didn't matter. None of it mattered. He would graduate. He would serve. He would make sure his survival meant something. That was all that mattered. The combat training arena was a massive sphere of metal and hard light projections. Taemin stood with his assigned team in the preparation chamber, checking his training weapon. The rifle was a simulation device, but it felt real enough. Heavy, solid. Commander Velthar's voice echoed through the chamber. Today is the Crucible. You will face enemy borders in zero gravity. Your team must survive for 10 minutes. Most of you will fail. This exercise breaks 60% of cadets every year. Taemin looked at his teammates. Minsu was a small Quellan whose hands shook as he held his weapon. Haewon was a Thorian still recovering from a training injury, his leg in a medical brace. Daehyun was a Tyrellian who spent more time in libraries than combat sims. His combat scores were the lowest in the class. This was Hyunwoo's doing. Taemin knew it. The Valorian had access to the team assignment system and had arranged this deliberately. Put the human with the weakest cadets and watch him fail publicly. We're going to die in there, Minsu whispered. His large eyes were wet with fear. No, Taemin said. We're not. How can you be sure? Daehyun asked. We're the worst team here. Everyone knows it. Taemin looked at each of them. Listen to me. When we get in there, stay close. Follow my instructions exactly. Don't think. Don't question. Just do what I say when I say it. Understand? They nodded nervously. The doors opened. Gravity disappeared. Taemin pushed off and floated into the arena, his team following. The space was huge, filled with debris and obstacles. Perfect cover for enemies. Perfect death trap for those who didn't know what they were doing. The timer started. 10 minutes. The first enemy constructs appeared. Hard light projections designed to look like the Ravager Collective's shock troops. They moved fast, weapons blazing with simulated fire. Behind that debris, Taemin ordered. His team scrambled for cover. He positioned himself at the front, weapon raised. The constructs attacked. Taemin fired in controlled bursts. One enemy down, 2, 3, but there were too many. They came from multiple directions. Minsu panicked. He left cover and tried to run. A construct's weapon hit him. His suit lit up red. Eliminated. He floated there, dead in the simulation. 2 minutes and 47 seconds. 3 team members left. 13 enemies closing in. Haewon, can you move? Taemin asked. Barely. My leg. Stay where you are. Daehyun, get behind Haewon. Use him as cover. Don't shoot unless I tell you. Taemin moved. In zero gravity, he was different. His movements were precise, economical. He didn't waste motion. He pushed off debris at perfect angles, positioning himself to cover both teammates he fired. An enemy construct exploded. He twisted, pushed off a wall, fired again. Another enemy down. His face was calm, his breathing steady. His eyes saw everything. In the observation room, the other cadets watched on screens. The mockery had stopped. They were silent now, watching the human move like he had done this 1,000 times before. 4 minutes and 12 seconds. A construct got close to Taemin. Too close. Its weapon swept toward him. Taemin blocked it with his forearm, metal striking against his sleeve. The fabric tore from shoulder to wrist, ripping open. His right forearm was exposed. In the observation room, every cadet saw it on the screens. The room went completely silent. Black and gray ink covered Taemin's entire forearm. A memorial tattoo. Names were written there, dozens of them. Dates, coordinates, and words: Ganymede Station. We hold the line. Under the ink, the skin was scarred. Old burns. Deep wounds that had healed badly. The kind of scars you got from real combat, real fire, real death. Taemin didn't look at his arm. He didn't react at all. He grabbed the construct's weapon, twisted it away, and destroyed it with a point-blank shot. Then he kept moving. Daehyun, 3 enemies on the left. Fire now! Daehyun fired. His shots were wild, but one hit. The construct staggered. Good, again. Taemin moved like water. He used the arena's structure perfectly. Every piece of debris became a tool. Every angle gave him advantage. He wasn't just surviving. He was controlling the battle. 6 minutes, more constructs appeared. The exercise was adapting, throwing more enemies at them. This wasn't normal. The simulation was pushing them harder than it pushed other teams. Taemin saw it, understood it. Someone in the control room was making this harder deliberately. Probably Velthar testing him. Fine, he had survived worse. Haewon, dump your oxygen reserve.
Now, what?
But that's emergency. Do it. Haewon hit the release. Oxygen gas exploded out, creating a cloud between them and the enemies. Taemin fired through it. The constructs couldn't see him, but he had already calculated their positions. 4 more enemies down. 8 minutes. Taemin's chest heaved. Sweat ran down his face. His torn sleeve floated around his exposed arm. The tattoo was visible to his teammates now. They stared at it even while enemies attacked. Focus. Taemin snapped. Watch your sectors. They obeyed. Something in his voice demanded obedience. This wasn't a cadet giving orders. This was someone who knew combat in his bones. 9 minutes. The final wave came. 10 constructs all at once. Suicide tactics meant to overwhelm them in the last seconds. Tight formation. Taemin ordered. All fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Now they fired together. Taemin's shots were precise. Daehyun and Haewon's were wild, but volume mattered now. The constructs fell. 4 left. 3, 2. The timer hit 10 minutes. The simulation ended. The constructs vanished. The lights came up. Taemin floated there, breathing hard. His weapon hung loose in his hand. Daehyun and Haewon stared at him with wide eyes. We survived, Haewon whispered. You survived, Daehyun said, looking at Taemin. You saved us. Taemin said nothing. He pushed toward the exit as gravity returned. His legs took his weight automatically. He walked past his teammates without looking at them. The doors opened to the observation room. Every cadet was there. Every instructor. They were all completely silent. All eyes were on Taemin. More specifically on his exposed forearm. On the tattoo. On the scars, Commander Velthar stood at the front. His insect face was unreadable, but something had changed in his posture. The way he looked at Taemin was different now. Hyunwoo stood near the back. His blue skin had gone pale. His confident smile was gone. He stared at the tattoo with something like shock on his face. Taemin walked through the room. No one spoke. No one laughed. He felt their eyes following him, reading the names on his arm, seeing the scars. He reached the corridor and kept walking. His torn sleeve hung loose. He didn't try to cover his arm. There was no point now. They had all seen it. Behind him, the silence finally broke. Whispers started. Questions. His name mixed with another name, Ganymede. Taemin didn't look back. He walked to his quarters, went inside, and closed the door. Only then did he let himself stop. He looked down at his arm, at the names, at the dates, at the coordinates. at his father's name at the top. His mother's name beside it. His hands were shaking now. The calm was breaking. Memory flooded back. Fire, screaming, the smell of death. Holding his father while he died. His mother's last words. Taman sat on his bed and put his head in his hands. His shoulders shook. No sound came out, but tears ran between his fingers. 7 years. It had been 7 years, and it still felt like yesterday. Ji-won Choi sat in the academy library, her clawed fingers moving across a data pad. Around her, other students studied quietly, but Ji-won wasn't working on her assignments. She was searching for information about Ganymede Station. The combat exercise had been 2 days ago. Everyone was still talking about it. About Taemin. About his tattoo. About how he moved in that arena like he had been born in combat. Ji-won had watched the whole thing from the observation room. She had seen his face during the fight. Calm, focused, almost empty. Like he wasn't really there in the present. Like part of him was somewhere else. Somewhere dark she needed to understand. So she was researching Ganymede was a moon of Jupiter, the 4th largest moon in Earth's solar system. 7 years ago, there had been a mining and research station there. It was remote, small, unimportant to most people. But then the Ravager Collective attacked. Ji-won read the reports carefully. The Ravagers were pirates. Brutal ones. They didn't take prisoners. They didn't negotiate. They came to a place, took everything valuable, and killed everyone they found. Ganymede Station had 2,300 people. Most were miners and researchers, families, children. The station's defense force numbered only 47 people. The Ravagers sent 800 fighters. Ji-won felt her scales prickle. 800 against 47. That wasn't a battle. That was a massacre. She kept reading. The station's security chief ordered an evacuation. All civilians to the transport ships. The defense force would hold the Ravagers off while people escaped. 47 people against 800. Everyone knew how it would end. The security chief knew. His people knew. But they did it anyway. The battle lasted 11 hours. 11 hours of desperate fighting. The defenders used every trick they knew. They vented atmosphere to slow the Ravagers. They set traps. They fought from cover, making the attackers pay for every meter. All 2,300 civilians escaped. Every single one. Of the 47 defenders, only 6 survived. 41 died buying time for strangers to live. Ji-won found the list of survivors. Her heart beat faster as she read. Private Taemin Park, age 15. Status critically wounded. Sole surviving member of the Park family. 15. He had been 15 years old. Ji-won looked at the list of the dead. Security Chief James Park, Dr. Soo-jin Park. Those were his parents. Both killed in action. She found more details. Reports from the survivors. Taemin had spent those 11 hours loading ammunition, sealing hull breaches, and dragging wounded fighters to cover. He was just a kid who lived on the station, not a soldier, not trained. But when the attack came, he picked up a weapon and fought beside his father. The report said he was found unconscious in the command center, weapon still in his hands, surrounded by enemy bodies. Burns covered his arms and chest. He had fought until he physically couldn't anymore. Ji-won closed her eyes. She thought about Hyunwoo's words in class. Soft. Weak. Untested. Taemin had been tested in fire when he was still a child, and he survived. She saved the information to her pad and stood. Other cadets needed to know this, not to embarrass anyone, but because they deserved to understand who they had been mocking. That evening, Ji-won shared what she found with a few cadets. By morning, everyone knew. The atmosphere in the academy changed overnight. When Taemin walked into class, the whispers were different now. Not mocking. Not cruel, cautious, respectful, uncomfortable. Hyunwoo sat in his usual seat, but he didn't look at Taemin. His face was pale. His confident posture was gone. Taemin noticed the change. How could he not? But his expression never shifted. He sat down, opened his datapad, and waited for class to begin. Bora leaned over from her seat. "They know," she whispered. Taemin didn't respond. "They know about Ganymede. About what happened, about—" "I know they know," Taemin said quietly. "It doesn't change anything, doesn't it? They're looking at you differently. They're looking at what I survived, not at me. There's a difference." Commander Velthar entered the room. But before class started, he looked directly at Taemin. Their eyes met. The commander gave a small nod. That evening, Bora found Taman in the observation deck. He was standing at the window again, staring out at the stars. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "You're going to anyway. Ganymede. Do you want to talk about it?" Taman was quiet for a long time. Bora almost thought he wouldn't answer. Then he spoke. 41 people died that day. 41 people who knew they wouldn't survive. They fought anyway because 2,300 people needed time to escape. Strangers. People they didn't even know. They gave their lives so those people could live. His voice was flat. Empty. Like he was reading from a report. My father was the security chief. He gave the order to evacuate. My mother was a doctor. She stayed to treat the wounded. They both knew what would happen. They did it anyway. And you? Bora asked softly. I was just the kid who loaded ammunition and sealed hull breaches. I wasn't a hero. I was too young and too scared to understand I should run. By the time I figured it out, it was too late. So I kept fighting because there was nothing else to do. You survived. 6 of us survived. 41 didn't. They were the heroes, not me. Bora looked at his profile against the stars. Is that why you're here? At the academy? I'm here because I'm still alive and they're not. If I survived, it has to mean something. It has to matter. He turned to face her. His eyes were dark, haunted. 41 people died buying time for strangers to live. That's what warriors do. They stand between danger and the innocent. They hold the line even when the line can't be held. They give everything so others don't have to. His hand moved to his forearm, touching the covered tattoo through his new uniform sleeve. I carry their names because someone should remember. I wear their sacrifice because I owe them everything. And I'm here because maybe, someday I can do for others what they did for those 2,300 people. Bora felt tears in her eyes. They should have given you all medals, Taman smiled. It was a sad, broken thing. Medals don't bring anyone back. He turned back to the window. Bora stood beside him in silence. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. Inside, 2 humans stood together, thinking about the people who died so others could see those stars. Across the academy in his quarters, Commander Velthar read through a classified file. Taman Park's complete military record. Most of it was sealed. Marked as traumatic incident. Survivor requiring psychological support. But Velthar had clearance. He read everything. The battle reports. The survivor testimony. The psychological evaluations. The years of therapy. The recommendation that Taman never serve in combat again. And yet here the human was. At the academy. Training to be an officer, to serve, to fight if necessary. Velthar closed the file. He had misjudged this human. Badly. He thought humans were weak. Untested. Soft. He was wrong. Some humans were forged in fire that would break most species. And this one, this quiet young man who said little and carried names on his arm like chains. He was stronger than Velthar had ever imagined. The commander made a note in his teaching file. Cadet Park requires different evaluation standards. He has already passed tests most of us will never face. Tomorrow, class would continue, but Commander Velthar would never mock the human again, and neither would anyone else who knew the truth. Commander Velthar stood at the front of the advanced tactics classroom. Behind him, a hologram displayed a space station under attack. The details were precise, specific. Every cadet in the room recognized what they were looking at, even if the commander hadn't said the name yet. Today we discussed defending untenable positions, Velthar said. His voice was cold and professional. You are a small defense force. You have 47 fighters. The enemy sends 800. You cannot win. You cannot survive. But you have 2,000 civilians who need time to evacuate. What do you do? The room was silent. Every eye moved to Taman. He sat in his usual spot, face blank, staring at the hologram. Cadet Kim, Velthar said. Your recommendation? Hyunwoo stood slowly. His blue skin looked pale. I would order immediate retreat. Save the defense force. They can evacuate with the civilians. Time required for evacuation, 3 hours. Time before enemy arrival, 90 minutes. Your solution? Velthar asked. Hyunwoo hesitated. Then, negotiate, request terms. The enemy is the Ravager Collective. They do not negotiate. They do not take prisoners. Next suggestion? Hyunwoo sat down. He had no answer. Other cadets offered ideas: surrender, partial evacuation, hide the civilians, and hope. Every answer prioritized the defender's survival over the mission. Velthar listened to each one. Then he said, "Every single one of you just killed 2,300 people. The Ravagers would have caught the evacuation ships. They would have slaughtered everyone aboard. This scenario isn't about the defenders surviving. It's about buying time for those who cannot defend themselves." The room felt cold suddenly, uncomfortable. Cadet Park. Velthar turned to face Taimin directly. "You have been silent. What would you do?" Every cadet tensed. This wasn't a random question. Everyone knew what was happening. Velthar was making Taimin relive Ganymede in front of the entire class. Taimin stood slowly. His face was carved from stone. His voice was quiet but clear. "You set up overlapping fields of fire at every primary access point. You mine the secondary approaches. You vent atmosphere in non-critical sections to slow their advance. You use every trap, every weapon, every trick you know." He paused. His hands were clenched at his sides. "You make them pay for every meter. You force them to fight for every room. You bleed them, slow them, make them angry enough to commit more forces. You keep their attention on you so they ignore the evacuation ships." His voice never rose, never wavered, but there was something in it. Something hard and dark. You fall back section by section, trading space for time. You know every minute you hold is another minute for civilians to escape. You know you're not leaving that station alive, but that was never the point. "And when they breach your final position?" Velthar asked. His voice was soft now. Taimin met the commander's eyes. "You make sure the last thing they see is that you're still fighting. That you didn't break. That you didn't run. That you held the line until there was nothing left to hold." The silence in the room was absolute. No one moved. No one breathed. "And if you know you won't survive?" Velthar asked. "Then you make sure your death means something." Taimin's voice was cold. Final. "That's what warriors do. That's what it means to hold the line." Velthar nodded slowly. "That is exactly what the defenders of Ganymede Station did 7 years ago. 47 humans held the line against 800 Ravagers. They fought for 11 hours. Not one civilian died. Not one transport ship was caught. Every single person they defended survived." He turned to the hologram and changed the display. Names appeared. 41 of them. "These are the defenders who died. They knew they wouldn't survive. They did it anyway. This is what sacrifice looks like. This is what duty means." Taimin stared at the names. He knew them all. He had memorized them years ago. They were written on his arm in permanent ink. 6 defenders survived, Velthar continued. "One of them is in this room. He was 15 years old. He spent 11 hours loading ammunition, sealing hull breaches, and fighting beside warriors who knew they were going to die." The commander looked at each cadet in turn. "Before today, some of you mocked him. Called him soft, weak, untested. You were wrong. Cadet Park has been tested in fire that would break most of you. He survived. He came here to learn, to serve, to make his survival mean something." Velthar's voice hardened. "You will treat him with the respect he has earned." Dismissed. Taimin sat down. His legs felt weak. The room was spinning slightly. He focused on his breathing. In, out, in, out. Cadets filed out slowly. Several nodded to him as they passed. Respectful, careful, like he was something fragile that might break. Hyunwoo stopped at Taimin's desk. The Valorian's face was pale. His confident arrogance was completely gone. "I didn't know," Hyunwoo said quietly. Taimin looked up at him. "No, you didn't. I'm sorry. For everything I said, for—" "You didn't know," Taimin repeated. His voice was tired. "Now you do. What matters is what you do with that knowledge." He stood and walked past Hyunwoo without another word. Ji-won caught up to him in the corridor. "That was hard," she said. "Velthar shouldn't have made you do that." "He needed to," Taimin said. "They needed to understand. It's not about me. It's about them learning what duty means." "They should have given you all medals," Ji-won said. Taimin stopped walking. He looked at her with eyes that were older than his face. "Medals don't bring anyone back. They don't make the nightmares stop. They don't fill the empty chairs at dinner. They're just metal on a ribbon." He started walking again. "What matters is that those 2,300 people lived. They got to see their families again. Got to grow old. Got to have futures. That's what matters. That's what 41 people died for. Jiwon walked beside him in silence. After a while, she said, "Your father would be proud of you." Taemin's jaw tightened. His hand moved to his forearm, touching the covered tattoo. "I hope so. Some days I'm not sure. Why? Because I lived and he didn't. Because I got to have a future and he didn't. Because every day I wake up is a day he'll never see." His voice cracked slightly. "I carry their names because I owe them everything. But some days the weight is so heavy I can barely stand." Jiwon didn't know what to say, so she just walked beside him. Sometimes that was enough. That evening, Taemin sat in his quarters. The lights were dim. He held a data crystal in his hand. It contained messages from his parents, recorded before the attack. Ordinary things. His mother talking about her research. His father discussing station maintenance. He played his father's last message. The one recorded during the battle. "Taemin, if you're hearing this, I'm gone. I need you to understand something. We made a choice today. Every person here made a choice. We chose to stand between evil and innocent people. We chose to buy time with our lives. We chose to hold the line." His father's voice was calm, steady, like he was discussing the weather. "Don't blame yourself for surviving. Don't carry guilt for being alive. We did this so you could have a future. So all those people could have futures. Honor us by living well. By being the kind of man who stands up when it matters. By holding the line when others can't." The message ended. Taemin sat in silence for a long time. Then he looked at his forearm. "At the names written there. I'm trying, Dad," he whispered. "I'm still trying." Outside his window, the stars burned cold and distant. Tomorrow would bring new classes, new challenges, new opportunities to prove himself. But tonight, Taemin Park sat alone in the dark and remembered 41 people who gave everything so others could live. And he promised himself, again, that he would make their sacrifice mean something. 3 weeks passed after Commander Velthar's lesson. The academy felt different now. When Taemin walked through the corridors, cadets nodded respectfully. In tactical discussions, others asked for his input. The mockery was gone, replaced by something else, something harder to define. Taemin didn't change his behavior. He was still quiet, still kept his distance, still spent his free time alone in the observation deck. But now when he spoke in class, people listened. The semester's final evaluation was approaching. A week-long wargame simulation. The entire class would be divided into 2 fleets and compete against each other. It was the most important test of the year. Commander Velthar announced the team assignments in class. Blue Fleet will be commanded by Cadet Hyunwoo Kim. Red Fleet by Cadet Jiwon Choi. Tactical officers will be assigned based on your performance scores. He looked directly at Taemin. Cadet Park will serve as tactical officer for Blue Fleet. The room stirred. That meant Taemin and Hyunwoo would have to work together, closely, for a full week. After class, Hyunwoo approached Taemin. The Valorian looked nervous. His confident posture from months ago was completely gone. "I know we haven't talked much since," Hyunwoo started. "Since you mocked me for being human?" Taemin asked. His voice was neutral. Hyunwoo flinched. "Yes, since then. I was wrong. About everything. I judged you without knowing anything about you." "You did," Taemin agreed. "I want to apologize. Properly. What I said was cruel and ignorant. You didn't deserve that. Humans didn't deserve that." Taemin studied him for a moment. Then he said, "You apologized, I accept. Now we work together for this exercise. Nothing else matters. Just like that? Just like that? I don't have time for grudges. We have a fleet to command." Relief flooded Hyunwoo's face. "Thank you." The war game began on schedule. Both fleets launched into the massive simulation arena. Virtual space surrounded them. Holographic displays showed enemy positions, friendly ships, objectives to capture. Blue Fleet consisted of 8 ships. Hyunwoo commanded from the flagship. Taemin stood beside him at the tactical station, reading sensor data and enemy movements. "Red Fleet is spreading out," Taemin reported. "G1 is dividing her forces. Looks like she's trying to cover multiple objectives at once. Overextending herself," Hyunwoo said. "We should strike the center, break through while she's divided." "It might be a feint," Taemin said. "G1 is smart. She might be baiting us," Hyunwoo considered. "What do you recommend?" "Send 2 ships forward. Test her response. Keep the main fleet back. If it's a trap, we don't commit everything." Hyunwoo nodded and gave the orders. 2 blue fleet ships advanced. Red Fleet's forces immediately converged on them from hidden positions. It was a trap. Pull them back, Taemin said. She's trying to pick us apart piece by piece. The exercise continued for hours. Ji-won was brilliant. She used every trick in the book and several that weren't. Blue Fleet struggled to match her tactical creativity, but Taemin and Hyunwoo worked well together. Hyunwoo made the strategic decisions. Taemin handled the tactical implementation. They developed a rhythm, a flow. On day 4 of the simulation, Ji-won executed a perfect feint. She drew Blue Fleet's attention to one sector while her real attack came from another direction. 3 Blue Fleet ships were caught out of position and destroyed. Worse, Blue Fleet's flagship was now isolated, cut off from the rest of the fleet. Red Fleet ships surrounded them. The bridge crew looked at Hyunwoo and Taemin with fear in their eyes. They were about to lose, badly. Hyunwoo turned to Taemin. You know this scenario. Taemin looked at the tactical display. Red Fleet closing in. Blue Fleet scattered. The flagship isolated and surrounded. It was Ganymede again. A different scale. A simulation instead of reality. But the core problem was the same. Yes, he said quietly. I know it. What do we do? Taemin studied the display. We hold. We buy time for the rest of the fleet to regroup. We make Red Fleet commit everything to destroying us. And while they're focused on us, our remaining ships hit their support vessels. We'll be destroyed, Hyunwoo said. Yes, but Blue Fleet will win the overall engagement. Sometimes the flagship has to be sacrificed. Hyunwoo looked at him. Really looked at him. At the human who understood sacrifice in his bones, who had learned this lesson at 15 years old while watching his parents die. Like Ganymede, Hyunwoo said softly. Exactly like Ganymede, Taemin confirmed. Hyunwoo took a deep breath. Then he nodded. All ships, this is Blue Command. We are going to hold this position. All remaining fleet units regroup and prepare for assault on Red Fleet's support line. We'll keep them busy. The bridge crew understood what that meant. They were going to die in the simulation, but they would win the war. Taemin coordinated their defense. Every tactic he had described in Velthar's class he used now. Overlapping fields of fire, trading space for time, making Red Fleet commit more and more forces to destroying them. They held for 37 minutes. Their flagship was finally destroyed by concentrated fire from 6 Red Fleet ships. But while Red Fleet was focused on them, Blue Fleet's remaining ships had regrouped and attacked. They destroyed Red Fleet's support vessels, cut their supply lines, forced them to retreat. Blue Fleet won the engagement. In the debriefing room, Commander Velthar reviewed the battle. Blue Fleet's flagship sacrifice was textbook defensive doctrine. Cadet Park demonstrated tactical mastery. More importantly, Cadet Hyunwoo trusted that expertise and executed it without hesitation. That is what fleet coordination requires. Ji-won approached Taemin after the debrief. I studied your tactics for weeks. I still couldn't break you fast enough. You were brilliant, Taemin said. If this were real combat, you would have won. We would have died. That's war. There's no satisfaction in that, Ji-won said. No, there isn't. But it's honest. That evening, the class held an informal gathering. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Taemin attended. He sat in the corner drinking water and watching the others. Bora sat beside him. You came. Seemed like a good idea. You're still watching the exits, she observed. Taemin glanced at the doors. He hadn't realized he was doing it. Old habits. From Ganymede? From surviving. You learn to always know where the exits are. Several cadets approached and asked Taemin about human military traditions, about Earth, about what it was like growing up on a frontier station. He answered their questions simply. Honestly, he didn't tell them about Ganymede. They didn't ask. They had learned not to. Instead, he told them about his childhood before the attack, about learning to work on station systems with his father, about helping his mother in the medical bay, about what Jupiter looked like from Ganymede's surface, the good memories. Before everything burned, late in the evening, Hyunwoo pulled Taemin aside. I want to say something. When we started this semester, I thought I knew what strength was. I thought it was about being the best, being the strongest, having the most natural talent, he paused. You taught me I was wrong. Strength is knowing what matters, protecting those who can't protect themselves, standing up when it costs you everything. That's what real warriors do. Taemin looked at him. You learned. That's what matters. Use what you learned. Make it count. I will, Hyunwoo said. I promise. Taemin extended his hand. Hyunwoo took it. They shook, not as enemies, not even as friends, but as fellow warriors who understood what duty meant. Later, Taemin stood at the observation deck window. Bora found him there. You're always here, she said. I like the quiet. The stars. It reminds me why this matters. Why does it matter? Taemin touched his forearm through his sleeve. Because 41 people died so others could see these stars. So families could stay together. So children could grow up. Everything I do is about honoring that. Bora stood beside him in comfortable silence. After a while, she said, they'd be proud of you. Your parents. The defenders. All of them. I hope so, Taemin said quietly. I really hope so. Outside the window, stars burned in the endless dark. Inside, a young man who had survived the impossible stood watch. Still carrying names on his arm. Still holding the line. Still making his survival mean something. The semester was almost over. Soon they would graduate. Soon they would serve in the real fleet. But tonight, Taemin Park stood with a friend and watched the stars and remembered what it meant to be a warrior.